walked out, so we're waiting for him to walk back in
Okay.
for us to start. You know what I was looking at on the jacket? It's from your dog.
What, the machete, the machete in my hand?
It's 5:30 and we have a quorum. First item of business is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Pardon, madam. Roll call.
Oh, roll call, I'm
No.
sorry. Thank you, Dickie.
Phyllis? Here. Kevin?
Here.
Miss Carol? Here. Donna? Tanya? Shannon? Dr. Downs?
Yes, ma'am.
Matt?
Here.
Stephanie Landry? Miss Katie?
Here.
Angela Lee? Mia Lemaire? Mr. Burnell?
Here.
Mary Jane? Nancy Mouse?
Here.
Butch Mouton?
Here.
Julia Reed? Here. Vicky So? And Laura Smith. We have 11.
Okay, that's what we need. So a motion, Butch made the motion. Is there a second to approve the minutes?
I second it. So moved.
Shannon just came in. Thank you. Motion Butch, second Phyllis. All those in favor of approving the minutes, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I skipped approving the agenda. Nobody help if I put my glasses. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Butch, second.
Second.
Burnell, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda's approved. Item 2.3, presentation of bylaws. Phyllis and her committee that worked very hard. Thank you very much. I'm ready.
Okay, I'm just going to let y'all know the process that we went through as we worked on these bylaws. Of course, the committee got together for the first time, worked on it, submitted it to central office, and we had some changes that they requested we make. So we took a look at those, made some of those changes, and resubmitted it. But to ensure that we were in compliance with the open meeting law and the board policy, we met with an attorney so that nothing was out of line. And actually, he was in agreement with us as far as, because it's our bylaws, as Carol had said last meeting, we were writing them with this committee in mind. So we've resubmitted them. I'm going to just kind of highlight two of the major changes. Most of the other things that we changed might have just been like adding a little more specificity to some things and a little clarification of things. But these, we kind of made some major changes on that. And I'm sure you read your bylaws from the agenda. But underneath section 5, where it talks about meetings, agendas, and minutes, we have stated that the dates and times of our quarterly meeting for the upcoming year shall be voted on and scheduled by the committee members at the last meeting of the calendar year, so that we're already aware of when we're going to meet in the upcoming year, rather than waiting for that first meeting in January. Okay? And the other thing that we revised a bit is the very last part, where it's the duties of the members. And we're stating if a member is unable to attend a meeting, he or she shall notify the chair, who shall document an excused or an unexcused absence. With 3 unexcused absences from committee meetings, it may result in removal of a committee member. Notification of possible removal shall be sent to the affected committee member 10 days prior to the official committee vote. So that gives them the opportunity to talk with us before we actually vote on whether to keep the remaining person or not. So those were our major changes. And so, just so you know that the documents that we're presenting are in compliance with both the open meetings law and our board policy. Are there any questions or concerns about them? Okay. Well,
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Carol?
Second.
Moves to approve, Butch seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
I have one question for the committee. Because 3 unexcused absences may result in the removal of a committee member, do you want us, does anyone have a preference as to when we start counting those absences? Do we count them starting January 1 meeting? Do we start them tonight, since the bylaws were just approved tonight? So what is the preference of the committee?
It should be after,
Tonight,
after you're
tonight.
approved, yeah.
And
So-
starting tonight.
Starting tonight, anyone with 3 unexcused absences.
And then you will have circumstances that hopefully you will consider. That's why they have 3 unexcused absences.
So I will contact anyone who has 3 absences after tonight, which Vicky's gonna take roll and let me know. Is that okay with everybody?
Can
Oh,
I
that's-
just make
that's
a
pretty
comment?
lenient too, right? Sorry. That's pretty lenient because we only meet maybe
Yes.
4 times a year, so.
Well,
Actually, we
it-
need more than.
Some years we
You
meet
do.
8 and 10 times, it just
Yeah.
depends.
Okay. So this is for any meeting here or also like subcommittee meetings too? Like if someone missed your meeting?
No, this is
these
just for the committee
Okay.
meeting. I'm assuming that.
yes, it is for the committee.
Trish?
I was just gonna make note, you've already had several members who have missed attendance over the last couple meetings.
I know that.
Starting
That's why I
tonight.
asked
Starting
what the
tonight.
committee wanted.
Starting tonight, right?
So, we will
That's-
start.
Can I just make one more comment? That's part of the issue with the vacancies, because then you have, members, the biggest piece that was noted with regard to the bylaws was the fact that you have representation from every section. When they're not here, then you don't have the representation. There's several that have missed several absences over the last couple of meetings that haven't been excused. So I'm just making note of that. They've already missed several.
Right,
Okay.
so,
But it would be unfair though to start this and go back and say, hey, if we approve this, it's
Yeah, now that we
Really?
have it.
Well,
divided.
the bad thing with that is you meet every 3 months. So if they've missed 2 or 3 meetings, then they've missed 6 months.
That doesn't.
That means you don't have representation from that section.
well, we met last month, we're meeting again this month, depending on what happens.
It's, yeah, just the
With
exception.
GCBS, we may meet again in June. I mean, we've had years where we met 8 or 10 times, especially during COVID and during silver scripts. But is it the consensus of the board that you want to start counting the absences tonight or January?
Yes. Tonight.
Tonight. Anyone opposed to starting them tonight? Okay? I don't think we need a motion, so that's what we'll do, and Vicky's gonna be the one doing that. All right, next item on the agenda, 2.4. OPEB, it stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits, and it gets thrown around in meetings, and it dawned on me that we have new members who don't know what OPEB stands for and what it does and why we have it. So Matt or Trish, whoever's going to,
If you do the history, I have to stop.
Okay. Yeah, OPEB is other post-employment benefits. So basically, we are promised health insurance after we retire. Accounting-wise, what's supposed to happen is that the cost of that promise should be expensed as you work, not after you retire. Similar to our regular retirements. Our regular retirement, we're promised retirement, and that was passed, I think, in 1937. The state didn't start funding it until 1987. So basically, it was a pay-as-you-go, and what happens, you have a UAL, unfunded liability, that occurs for both retirement and for OPEB. which is the cost of health insurance from the time you start working to the time well, basically till you retire, till you die, is that cost. So what they started making us do is record that cost, but because the board had not put aside any money towards that liability, basically, it's just a promise. So back years ago, we established an OPEB trust fund in which money goes into the trust fund to help offset that liability, to create a financial backing for the promise to have health insurance after you retire. So currently, we
I have the
$10.
balance. Yeah, I have the balance information from Matt. It's a deduction of $10.30 per member. Not per member, I'm sorry,
It's a
per
contribution.
contract. It's a contribution amount, and
From
then,
the fund that employs. So if you work for food service, they send $10 to the trust, $10.31. $20 if you have family coverage.
$20.
For each head count that happens, that money goes to the trust to be invested to start something to say that we have some money behind the promise to provide health insurance to employees after they retire.
And how much do retirees pay? You said you're taking $10 a month per employees, that's.
No, whatever fund employs that employee, food service, general fund, Title I, they're the one making that contribution to the trust.
it's for the members that are under the group health insurance. So if they have health insurance, then there's a retiree trust portion. For employee only, it's $10.30. For two or more, is $20.60 is what's being deducted.
I just want to make sure when we have a meeting that I tell retirees they're paying $10.30. They're not.
No, they're not. The general,
Just
retirees
general,
need the
general
fund.
fund. Yeah.
Active employees,
Active employees,
that makes a difference.
And
Retirees.
retirees, everybody.
but by the general
When do
fund.
you
not
have
by the-
access to those funds?
Yeah, so the trust is, the amount is huge as it is for the UAL, for the retirement system, which we're still paying. So the access would happen at the point where we reach either the total or the state decides to pull health insurance, the promise of health insurance. We'd have that money at least to fund health care for our retirees as long as whatever in the trust lasts. So
That
if the
could be 20,
legislature
30
would
years
come,
from now.
if the legislature would come tomorrow and say, we gotta balance the budget, and look, GM did this, a lot of corporations did this, promised the same thing to their employees, and then pulled out further down the line to say all it would take would be a vote of the legislature, or I don't know if it's constitutional or not, but to say that we're not gonna provide, you don't no longer have to provide health insurance, then that money would kick in to, as long as it lasted, to cover retirees at that point until it ran out.
What would happen to all these parishes that had never put in?
Yes,
No.
that's my,
Their retirees would be without insurance at all,
that's my question.
if that would happen. We would have at least
You
the
think
money
that
to
would
get
happen?
us through a couple of years or whatever it would take to, till the money ran out, or till, that would give us time to, I guess,
That's not scary.
lobby or whatever, and try to get that reversed if that would happen.
How many parishes are funding as of today, do you know that?
I think 4.
Only 4? Out of how many parishes?
60.
So it's not really scary if you only have 4 funding. It's not scary, that's like.
Matt, 2 questions. How much total do we have in the OPEB trust at this point?
17.7 million?
17.7
Yeah.
million?
What would be the
And could
number
you
we
tell
would
me-
need to get to where we balance?
Give us that number.
And how many years would it take to get there?
Currently, the liability is 427 million, which is
So we'll
high.
never get there.
No.
Well, we had the same issue in 1987 with the UAL, and the state started putting money aside in 1987, and they expect to fund that UAL, I believe, in sometime in the 2030s. So it's a long-term problem that's going to have a long-term solution, but you have to start somewhere, and we started with $1 million, and now we're at 17, almost 18. So it's all a matter of time, and at least we have that. If something happens, at least we have that. You know, that's at least cover you for a couple of years, maybe. I mean, how does 17 million would last, maybe, at this point, but depending on how much health insurance is at the time.
So Matt, the concept of coming from general fund per contract is new to me. They're not actually taking it out of that, say, the Title I budget. You're just, oh, it does come out of their budget.
you said that.
Wow.
And food service, and anybody who has an employee, because if we do it directly to the trust, we can charge those funds, those grant funds.
So is that new, taking it out of Title I? I mean, is that
Yeah.
recently?
That was recently approved. We went through it and it was approved.
So what's like the number of contracts you have? I'm just curious, what's the average amount per year approximately?
Per year, it's about 900,000 total.
Thanks.
And retirees who don't belong to any department from which you could take money, the retirees portion is paid for by general fund dollars in total, right?
Yes.
So how much you're giving this year? You're recommending?
It's not a
It's
set
not
amount,
a
it's
set
based on the membership on the Blue Cross plan,
In order
so
for-
it's fluid.
Right, in order for the grants to pay for it, it has to be based on the employee. So if the employee does not have insurance, the grant doesn't pay them out. It's strictly for those who have employees. And it's for those to say, really, when that retiree, say you worked for food service all your life, the day you retire, your liability to us, to the general fund, to this fund. But food service really has not paid any of that, and they're not gonna pay that after you retire, right?
Right.
So if you would eventually get to the point where they would pay for that cost, then food service would have paid for the cost of retirement for health insurance in your retirement, that wouldn't be borne by the fund, basically. So you have those grants helping to pay for those employees who become liabilities of this fund, of Fund 85, the insurance fund when they retire. Right now, they're total liability. So at least now we have some money to offset that liability that in the future that could come, that's paid for by the grants and not by the insurance, not by the general fund, which is what's happening.
You keep referring to a grant,
Title I,
Yeah.
food service.
I see.
So I'm just curious, for like the teachers in the schools, does that come out of their school general fund budget?
If the teacher works in the general fund, if it's a general fund teacher, the general fund would pay that $10
From the school? In other words, you're.
from the general fund. not
From the general fund, okay, I got you.
No, not from the school.
Okay, thanks.
Any questions about what OPEB is, why it's necessary?
I don't think any of us in this room will ever benefit from what you put inside.
Yeah.
But our children will, and you've got to start somewhere, and look, we've made a lot of ground. If they wouldn't have started in '87, we wouldn't have a stable retirement we'll hopefully have by the time I retire. So, you know, maybe by the time I retire, and a lot of the working people here retire, there will be enough money to guarantee, at least if the state pulls out a couple of years or something, which is nothing we have.
I
other
think
than 7.
what runs the whole thing, and, you know, with all the explanations and everything, is when you consider that out of almost, 70 systems, there's 4 that are doing it, that's
Yeah.
hard to understand.
That's like,
Yeah, but I think that it's an unlikely scenario, but if you follow the legislature, if you read some of the pre-filed bills, there are a lot of people in the legislature who are not fans of public education, as shown by the bills they put forth. I certainly would not put it past them to try to do something like that. And you can't fund it all at once, but you have to take baby steps, like saving for retirement. You save a little bit at first when you're a new teacher, and then on top of retirement.
Yeah, but the state hasn't funded their own retirement.
that's
Like
correct.
that.
They are.
They're doing it now, but
Right.
it's not completely
So-
just like us.
so,
Not completely
look.
funded.
What I'm hoping happens is back when we finally get to the point where the OAL is funded, our 24% contribution for retirement is going to drop to the neighborhood of 7 or 8%. So I'm hoping at that time, you'll see more of a addressing from local of that second liability. Because right now they're looking at the retirement liability.
Right.
The OPEB liability is sitting there also waiting. So, I mean, I'll be long retired by then, but hopefully see that fruition happen to where this gets funded to that. We have more than just a promise for our health care after we retire. we have money in the bank similar to what we have, gonna have for retirement. So that when you retire, you know you have money to retire, but you also know you have money for health insurance already in the bank and not based on an annual promise or an annual allocation.
And no insurance money, premium money is going to be used for that, because that was the biggest controversy.
Yeah, no premium.
Okay, any more questions about OPEB? All right, next item on the agenda, Mr. Fontaine?
Right. So everybody should have a handout. I'll set the table with kind of a recap of when we met last. We went over the last quarter of 22, actually mid-quarter of the fiscal year. From a plan year basis, it showed about a 5.6% decrease. And that was based on a really good first half of the year, really tough second half of the year. Per employee per month cost in the first half of 22 is $546 on net claims. Second half, $787. So big increases, and of course the budget based on current expenses. So if you look at page 1 here, the first section is going to be paid claims through from the fiscal period of July 1st through January 31st here. And this is from reporting the $23,474,000, medical, pharmacy at $6,007,000, and of course the EGWIP $7,165,000. These are all reported numbers. $37,343,000 is the total there. Projecting those claims out from February, we actually used real data for February because we had that available, and then projecting it out through the remainder of the fiscal year at $13,605,000. Pharmacy, $4,787,000. Same thing, we had the February numbers and used the averages to project it out through the remainder of the year. Same thing with EGWIP. That totals $23,412,000. Reimbursements that have been paid in for the first period of July through January, $2,409,000 on the pharmacy rebates, drug subsidies of $983,405, specific reimbursements, those medical claims, medical or prescription drugs that went over our reinsurance deductible there. We collected $296,758 back. Total reimbursements $3,689,000. On projected reimbursements, and you remember that this is all increased numbers from the work we've done with our benefits and our marketing efforts, where we looked at all of the industry and whatnot. $6,009,000 coming to us for the rest of the period, and additional rebates, retiree drug subsidies of $1,331,000. Specific reinsurance reimbursements, and this is not a projected number. This is, we know this is coming to us, $370,711, and COVID estimated at $650,000, and that's a conservative number. So total reimbursements for projected out for the rest of the year at $9,251,938. There's we need to consider the contract improvements for the remaining 5 months at $449,000. Paid and projected net claims, $47 million. So basically you have your paid claims, less all of your reimbursements and cost savings there. Then you add the fixed cost at the $2,381,000. Projected fixed cost, $1,698,000. The Humana Medicare Advantage premium. Projected departmental expenses, $693,464. So total paid and projected plan costs for the fiscal period through 6/30/23, $52,831,144. For the first period here of 7/1 to 1/31, funding is at $29,491,121. That's a reported number. Projecting that out to the remainder of the year here at $20,903,080. Total paid and projected funding is at $50,394,201. That'll leave us with a planned deficit at 6/30/23 of $2,436,943. Percentage needed, that $2,436,943 equates to 4.8% of the total funding, so that would be needed to break even. Page 2 here, we do have some saving strategies to consider. The first one is a patient's assistance program. Projected savings here, $513,695. Patient assistance is money available through the pharmacy industry or that is designed to help individuals out with costs for high-cost drugs. Now that money is also available to employer groups. We vetted this program, and that $513,000 is very conservative. Basically, your medications that cost over $9,000 a month are going to fit into this. You have very obviously, we don't have a ton of people in that category, but you do have a couple of folks that are on medications that are close to $50,000 a month. So if we can offload some of these expenses to patient assistance, that's direct savings to the plan. The vendor does charge a percentage of savings. If we were to implement a patient assistance program, conservative savings of the $513,000, that brings our needed funding down to $1,923,000, or right at 4%.
Is that for actives or retirees? This is for actives?
This is for the whole Blue
Prescription?
Cross plan.
Okay.
RX benefits, for the RX benefits
RX
specifically
benefits.
piece,
Right.
it doesn't affect
So-
everyone.
One thing that, you know, if there's a word that this committee is familiar with now, after all of the different things that we've done to control costs on the prescription drug side, it's disruption. Okay, we've discussed disruption a whole lot. This is not similar to the ag whip. This is not
Thank
affecting
goodness.
anybody that is on retiree. What's going to happen is a member with a high-cost medication is going to get contacted. They'll still receive their drug. They have to actually go through a process of qualifying for it, because you have to, your income has to be at a level to qualify for that patient assistance. Most of you folks will qualify. The income levels are $100,000 or above on an individual and that type of thing. So we feel that we're going to have some good success with this program. It isn't the type of program that changes a benefit or anything like that, or that's disruptive to a member, but it does provide some good savings there. Laura is here with us from RX Benefits to answer any questions
I have a question.
on that
I want to be sure
particular
that
program.
what you said is that everyone will be able to get their medicine. So if they don't qualify for whatever the qualifications are,
Just
they will
continue to
still
get
be able to get their medicine.
Correct.
Correct.
So this doesn't, it's not something that's trying to change you to a lower cost medication. It's not something that's trying to change your medication or your formulary or dispense a different amount to you or anything. It's just a methodology of patient assistance money that's out there in the industry to pay for these drugs and to help us out with the cost of these drugs. But it doesn't alter the process of the member getting that.
How will the member find out about the program? Is someone from the, because I benefit from a program like this, and the process for me was that my provider reached out to me regarding the benefits.
So,
What will happen with,
so RX Benefits will scrub the data.
okay,
They will identify the members who could qualify. They're going to contact, they're going to help them out with the application process and walk them through that, and make sure that they continue to keep their heads to hold.
okay,
Because
great.
these are very important meds these folks are taking, and you're taking something that's over $9,000 a month. You know, it needs to be taken.
Will they stay in touch regarding renewal of the benefit, because I know the benefits, they expire annually
Oh, yeah.
often.
So every
So they will be, okay, and so that's someone from RX Benefits is going to be reaching out to the patients. Okay,
Now, is that gonna be seamless where, like, coming up to that ending benefit, are you gonna be able to get a hold of them before that so that the process can continue on and it's gonna just simply go into the next?
Yes, there's a coordinator.
Y'all are gonna do that?
There's a coordinator that helps with renewal every year.
Okay,
using
good.
that process.
And if the member refuses to qualify, they will still get their medication.
Yes, they can still get their medication, it just wouldn't go through the patient assistance piece.
Got it.
We do recommend that you require them to do that, but that's up to you.
Because requiring them to do it is how you get the savings from it. Because if they're gonna qualify because they have the annual salary, then that's the whole point of having it to benefit from it, is that
Exactly.
correct?
Correct.
The members also incented to qualify because they will wind up with zero coverage.
yeah, I've had a really positive experience receiving patient assistance in a program like this. The reason that I asked about navigating the process, I had to do it by myself and it was challenging.
Yeah.
You know,
It's very complex.
it's complicated, and then the renewal, and you're not sure if you did it, and then, oh no, I owe $20,000, you know, it's intimidating, so.
And if you're 98 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, so that's why I wanted to make sure that there was someone, because on the whole, they're excellent programs. But, and once you're in, it's not hard, but getting in and renewing is not the easiest process to navigate. So I think, going off of my personal experience, like, these are really, really good programs that save a lot of money. If there's support navigating it, I think it seems like a win-win to me.
And you're gonna have in your size group only a couple of dozen people that is gonna qualify for this. So they're gonna hold their hands, walk them through the process, and hopefully we gain even more than $500,000 of savings, because every other day, we've got a new member on a high-cost medication. So this is not only savings today, it's going to stabilize our costs.
Excuse me, can you speak a little louder?
It's not
He
only
doesn't
the.
hear
No,
you.
that's okay, it's as far as you can.
See, now that I can hear y'all. I only announced.
I'm late, I wasn't sure if you got your hearing aids.
I'm wired in, I
There
can
we
hear
go.
y'all so loud, it's crazy. Me and my hearing and all that, we've been going round and round. Brooke doesn't have to repeat to me anymore. I'm
Not
on
a
my own
translator.
now. I'm not gonna leave her at home, because I do need her, but not for the
I wanted to mention one thing too. You know, the beauty of the program, like you mentioned, is the member has no cost share. Members taking these specialty medications are paying up to 10% of the drug up to $150 copay a month. $150 it can change someone's life. I mean, especially when you're on a limited income. So not having to pay that anymore is also a blessing to them. And to Laura's point, they will handhold these members, make sure they submit what's needed, because it's based on income. They will have to prove their income. You've been through that probably, where you have to show maybe a tax return or a recent pay stub or something like that. We'll make sure they know exactly what they need and handhold them through the process to make it as easy as possible.
That's a great point, because if you're taking that kind of medication, in many cases, you've got some claims on the medical side as well. You're hitting your out of pockets and all of this type of thing. If you just saved yourself $150 a month, that's 12,000 plus and whatnot, and that gives you a lot of money to, for the rest of your health care and all, to meet your deductibles, out of pocket, and that kind of thing. Any other questions on that before we move on?
How would you require, how would that work? If we required someone to participate, or required everybody to participate who could?
At least to go through the process.
So they don't have to qualify for it in the end, but they just have to go through the process
Gotcha.
if they are
Or
eligible.
like pre-approved, I guess.
At 9,000 or
Yeah.
above to start off with.
Gotcha.
So because they can run the prescriptions, we can identify them from the front end
Gotcha.
to start off with. Am I right?
That's exactly
I'm
right.
trying to pay attention. You're perfect.
Second strategy here, not really a strategy, but it's benefit alternatives. As we said in numerous previous meetings, I'm always going to give you saving strategies, benefit alternatives, that type of thing. In your benefits, when we review, and I've also provided some benchmarking for you here, if you want to take a look at that, you know that your benefits compare well to all of your peer school systems around. You've got a fantastic benefit policy, all the way from the enhanced down to the high deductible health plan here. When we look at it, your co-pays are in line, your deductibles are probably a little lower than most, your out-of-pockets definitely right in line with industry. If we made some changes to that, those changes would be more applicable to be put in at 1/1/24, because if we change a deductible and a co-insurance in the middle of the year, or any benefit for that matter, you know, somebody who's already met their deductible and their out-of-pocket wouldn't be, you know, too pleased in that manner. The best time to change all of that is on 1/1 when it tracks. There's projected savings there, not nearly as big a number as the savings strategy, but it's still $300,000. If you did that sole, it would take the increase down to, you know, only 4.2 there. If we did both of these savings strategy and benefit, still at needing that 3.2 there. From a recommendation standpoint, if we look at the next page here, we prepared for you basically what these increases would be, looking at the budget, knowing where these claims are going and projected out. Remember, in that budget, there's really no inflationary trend. That could be considered as well. So I would be more inclined, you know, especially with the little difference in number. If you look at the single premium on a 4% increase, it's $6.38. On up to an employee with 2 or more, $26.25. Now remember, that is also going to be the gross number. It's got it's taken out pre-tax, so the net effect of taking out $6.38 is more like 5.5, depending on what, you know, your tax bracket you're in. The net effect of the family is probably more in the area of like $19, $20 a month there. So, you know, with it being at 3.8 and the saving strategy there, my recommendation, our recommendation would be strongly to utilize the saving strategy of the patient's assistance and to enact this 4% increase on 7/1 here. And we constantly continue to monitor the plan and actually see whether or not we needed to go forward with the benefit changes on 1/1. We still have time to monitor that.
Any questions for Mr. Fontana? Are you finished your presentation, or?
There are additional pages here, but it's benchmarking and it's more for review. And of course, we did all 3 plans for you as far as the changes go. Basic having the majority, I reviewed those numbers, but on the next page you see enhanced, $8.52 is the 4%, $30.74 on the family, or 2 or more. And then of course the high deductible health plan, it's only a 70-cent increase, or for family, $9.43. I will point one thing out to you. I did a little math on this, and I know you guys have all done that before. But difference between basic and advanced on an annual basis is $792 for single, $1,500 a year per family. That's basic and enhanced. The high deductible health plan versus basic, $1,848 single, $5,250 family. What those numbers out? With disparity, that's probably one of the major reasons why we've seen such an increase in enrollment on the high deductible health plan and folks kind of moving away from the insurance. It's a hand says the co-pays.
Questions or comments on Lynn's recommendation, which as I understand it is a 4% premium increase with the cost savings and wait on the benefit alternative until 124. That's the recommendation?
Well, I think he said, correct me if I'm wrong, to see if this worked, and then possibly,
Right.
yeah, in January, if it was needed, not all three.
When did that decision for the 124 need to be made for processing that would be open
Have to be
enrollment?
made prior to open enrollment.
July.
July, so we'd have.
Yeah, we've got a couple of months
We've got
more
some
data
months.
to bring in on that.
I guess I'm a little perplexed, Lynn, because all last year when we were going through these reports, we kept hearing, your plan is in great shape. Your claims are down, you're in good shape. And then the one thing this committee has asked for over the years is don't wait to the very end and then say, we need an increase. That's why we asked for them, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just asking what happened with us. Every time we met, it was, we're in good shape. Your plan is solid. Even the auditor said our plan was solid in their audit report. And then suddenly we need a 4% increase.
Plus
And
the cost saving.
I'll answer
The
that
cost
question.
saving.
Sorry.
No, I'm just reminding her, plus she has to look at the two cost saving measures. So we're looking at a lot. It's a lot. And I propose, I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm finished.
I read this earlier, and so I called little old people, because I always call the little old ladies. And they said, Carol, how do you expect me to do that? My house insurance has gone up, gas has gone up, I can't buy chicken like I used to, so I'm eating eggs, I can't eat eggs. So now I'm gonna tell them, we have to use these two cost-saving measures, and eventually you're gonna have to use them, plus a 4% increase. And then I'm telling them I'm going to meetings, but you know, with the cheerleaders, y'all are doing good, keep doing everything you're doing. Make sure you're going to the pharmacy, you're getting all the generics, and then I'm going, you don't know, it's like a slap in the face.
You know, a while back she had mentioned, maybe we know that the inflation is coming. Okay? We see that, we know that. And I think Carol at one point in time had suggested maybe a 1% increase every year or every other year, so that we have to grow with the economy. I mean, that's just how it has to be. And would that be prudent? Would that be prudent to just say, okay, look, guys, here's the plan, because of cost, and we know drug costs, we know medical costs, they're not going down. They will not go down. So in that particular situation, why not just get prepared and say, okay, 1% a year, instead of $15, it might only be $9. Okay, you know, things like that. And I think it would kind of ease in things, and at least the people would know what's going on. Not only that, but did the state give the teachers an increase this year in pay? Was that, did I hear?
Last year.
Huh?
Last August.
Because usually what happens is that we increase it when there's an increase in pay. And so they
Well,
get.
Bessie just proposed one, so.
Okay,
you're
that's
right.
what, yeah.
We did the one
But,
last
yes,
year.
But
and
remember last year, we agreed, we were talking about 1%, but we
was
did
it
nothing because of
well,
that.
Exactly.
But man, we
So, you know,
keep
we
doing
did do
nothing.
1%.
So we keep doing nothing, and
But
then
now
we
you
have
have
a meeting coming up.
Exactly.
And listen,
Yep.
I'm gonna stand there looking like a plum idiot going, y'all, we doing well, don't worry. Now a 4% increase, plus your basic is going from $950 to $1,200. That's like $250. Y'all, it's like ridiculous tonight. That's
Matt,
how
I
I
guess
feel.
my question, or Trish, I know accountants, And in budgets, we always are conservative in budgeting. And rightfully so that we don't end up with a huge deficit. What's the percentage of, 4% is kind of high. Is there any way our projections could possibly be lower and not as conservative, over-conservative as we have sometimes in the past?
For the
No.
insurance fund?
No?
We worked with HUB and we got down to the nitty gritty as far as we could possibly go.
I mean, we went
with
through
these
some high
numbers.
inflation, and I'm not talking, and we didn't do an increase. The 1% we were saying, said, no, let's not do the 1% because exactly that. We had a raise, we didn't want the teachers to say, oh, we have a raise and you should raise. So we passed the 1%, that would be 3% now, or if we would have done it, it would have been 2% because we would have had 1%.
See, that's the thing.
We're
We
told
just
no,
kept-
every time we bring that up, we're
We
told
kept
no.
putting it on hold.
So we
So
kept
now
rolling
it's
it
gonna
forward,
be
right?
more.
So now it's accumulated, and, we were lucky, we had, but we're not lucky this year.
We had a lot of one-time
Let me
money.
talk about why we're here
No.
first, because that was your original question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the original question.
We were trucking along doing fine.
Yeah.
And then in the last 4 or 5 months
Yeah.
of the year, we went from an average on the per employee per month claims from 546 to 787,000. Circulatory and cancer.
But you told us last month that the numbers were getting better.
We're starting to, okay? So what happened was is you saw all of that coming at the end of the year, okay? Then you got a tough January, because January's basically 22 claims as well, but we're starting to see claims subside. Of course, you've got new deductibles and out-of-pockets and all of that that come in. So remember, the claims that are being received today were incurred a month or two ago, okay? So our weekly claims runs that were averaging 550, 600 started coming in 7, 8, and we had these cancer claims, and we saw 9, we had some $1 million.
Yeah, I had some $1 million checks, that's
And-
scary.
and
Not sign that $1 million
One
check.
or two of them, and several, but of late, we're coming back down. Yesterday's was 395,000, the week before was 660.
So your projection is the same as it was last month, that our claims are continuing to decline.
Our claims are continuing to decline, okay? And I'm factoring in a lot of that going forward, but I don't want to say we're gonna have $400,000 weeks for the rest of the year and put you in a deficit at the end of the year.
Let me ask a question. How much, Matt, does a 1% increase generate?
Take that divided by 4.
And then a 2%, let's see them all.
If I'm remembering correct, was it last year, it was about, when we did it last time, it was about 700,000.
It was so
At the
minimal
3,
that it
yeah.
didn't make the paper because it
No.
just wasn't gonna make
1%
an impact.
gives you about $500,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's, if we did 2%, that would be $1 million. What if, is it possible that we asked the board and the general fund, I went back to 2014, I think, in looking at shared costs. Because the general fund pays some, it's a triple cost. The general fund pays some, the sales tax pays some, and the employer retiree pays some, correct? So what if we paid 2%, increased 2%, that would be $1 million. And then asked, I think we were at 69% was the general fund and sales tax. It has been over 70% in the past. Could the shared cost with the board increase commensurate with what the employees and retirees would pay?
You know, we are seeing some pressures in the general fund. We're trying to put the general fund together. We have charter schools that are coming in that they built on the north side. That's going to get the general fund really hard.
So, but the general fund had $40 million excess revenue over expenses as of your audit, correct? I mean, that was the report that was given.
right, but we're seeing probably an estimated of almost 6 million going to charter schools. Right,
6 million what?
going to the additional money, going to the new charter schools that are opening on the north side of the parish, and an expansion of the charter schools.
Plus, actually, Youngsville also doubled their
Plus,
grade
we're
level.
seeing, we've seen almost a $2.5 million increase in utilities, in bus maintenance. The inflation seems to be spotty, but it's really hitting us in some of the things we buy, especially in the parts department for buses. We're already out of money as of now, and we have buses that we still need to repair. So we're trying to go to the fund this year to find money to pay for parts in buses, the fuel, utilities. We had to send almost an additional $2 million there just to finish the year. So inflation is hitting the general fund really hard.
And it's hitting the employees and retirees
And
too. That's why
retirees,
my
yeah.
thinking was that rather than have the general fund decrease from over 70% to 69%, which is what was showing on your report
The
last month.
percentage stays the same, doesn't it?
No, it was down
It's
from
3% of
70% to 69% on Lynn's last report.
But if you have a percentage across the board, everything should double stay the same mathematically.
It's an increase
But
across all
because they're
sections.
across the board. So it should stay, the percentage of general fund puts in should still be the same.
If you look at Lynn's last report, where he shows the split saving, the split expenses,
So the costs that
he
we.
doesn't segregate sales tax and general fund like we used to, but
He's got a system share on there. Is that what you're
yeah,
referring
I'm looking
to?
at the system.
That's
share.
all three, the retiree, the
Correct.
sales tax, the general fund.
Correct. But that was at 70% for the general fund, and it went down to 69%.
That can fluctuate just with rolling.
Right.
And my question was, can it fluctuate back up over the 70%? And what Matt is saying is,
No, so this, in fact, we were looking at the cost to the general fund of this 4% is $1.4 million. So I have to find that in addition. So, we're trying to put those general fund numbers together, and it is challenging. We're seeing some real challenging things coming on. So no, it's.
So I think what Matt's saying is that it's not just the employer, the retiree is asking to get the money. The general fund is also putting up their portion also. It's not just asking us as active staff to put up money, it's the general fund will be hit at the same time.
With the majority of it.
Right.
Let me just say, one
Because
of my
right now,
concerns
it's the majority.
One of my concerns is, and it's a national problem, is teacher resignations.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article the other day where Louisiana has the highest percentage of teacher resignations in the nation.
yes.
And if, granted, a 4% doesn't seem that much, but you guys are gonna get competitive if you're not already trying to get teachers. And you can't tell me you're not, it's statewide. But the more you increase premiums or cut benefits, you're cutting into those teacher benefits and you're gonna lose a competitive edge. I'm just saying, this has happened in the past. And I know, you can look at some other parishes that were listed, but those are not self-funded parishes. And for insurance, and ours is. Another concern is, or not concern, but question is, I guess in the past when we dealt with deficits, we always looked to cost centers. I can remember having to cut my department 20%, which was a lot, before we affected schools, before that even went out. And when you look at this budget, and it's not a criticism, but there are several increases in cost centers instead of decreases. I thought normally the way the system operated is if you were facing a deficit, then you tightened your belt and tried to live within your means. Not that it's a whole lot of money, but at this point, I think every penny helps when you're dealing with retirees, and particularly retirees on the low income level. your support workers, your janitors, your cafeteria workers. Every little penny is gonna make a difference for them. I mean, you know, you increase conferences. Another thing that I noticed, and maybe it's an error or maybe I'm misreading, but you look at administrative salaries, this year, we budgeted for one administrator, the 3% budget's for 1.5, the 4% budget's for 2 administrators. Is that a mistake or?
No, they were just incorrectly listed last year. When we did the reorg last year, there's 1.5 administrative staff and there's 1.5 support staff. So it's just, there's no change within those. It was the same as last year as it is this year. It's just it's a correction regarding the reorg from last year.
Okay, well, the 4% increase says 2 administrators, so you're saying it's not gonna be that?
It's not 2, it's 1.5. It's my salary and the generalist. The generalist is half and half, general fund, fund 85.
And I remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember.
And then the other one is, with regard to, retiree specialist is half, general fund, fund 85. And then I've got to look at my budget. I didn't think we were working towards that one just yet.
Yeah, the second page of
But
the,
none of that has changed, but we have had step increases, yes.
but it says 2 FTEs on the bottom in the box, Trish.
Mm-hmm.
On the 4.
It's 1.5, 1.5 administrative salary, 1.5 clerical salary. The 1.5 is the supervisor and the generalist. The generalist is half and half. The retiree specialist is half and the coordinator is at 90. So it's essentially 1.5 of each. Support and then 1.5 of administrative. With that reorg last year, we've just reclassified those categories to make sure that they're accurate.
But it says administration in fiscal year 23-24 salaries, administrative salaries, 2 FTEs.
Where are you, which page are you
I'm
looking
on
at?
page 2 of the 3% plan in the box, the bottom left side.
3%. Okay, it's on the salary page, it's 1.5, so it's just it's
Still equals 3 though, either way.
it should be 1.5 and 1.5 on the 3. On the 4, I believe it's accurate.
It has it on the 4 too.
Okay, so it's detailed out on the salary. There's a lot of boxes on the budget. I included it on the salary page, 1.5 and 1.5. I can just go back and edit it. But if you reference the salary page, that one's got the details.
The other thing that's strange is, and I don't have it in front of me, Matt, you might be able to find it, is that the employee salaries are paid different percentages from general fund and fund 85, that's the insurance fund. Some are 50%, some are more than 50%. So
It's a reclass from last year. Remember the general fund portion? The general fund of the reclass paid those salaries. That's why those salaries are slightly different. The 78 point. The percentage is different.
So is that's going to stay the same in your
Exactly.
budget?
Yes,
General
ma'am.
fund will still pick up what they pick
That
up.
percentage
Right.
sounds though they
Is
did last
there
year,
a
yes.
reason they aren't all like 50-50 or something?
Because it was a reclass based on that total, so it's a
That was
percentage
last
of.
year, but is there a reason we could make it 50-50, so they're all the same?
Then you're talking about moving more money in salaries to the general fund.
Right. And taking less money from Fund 85.
We're already, general fund is already subsidizing not only 70%, but additional salaries that are not paid for by Fund 85, as you know. We have people in the department that are 100% working on Fund 85 that are paid by the general fund. In addition, so, the 1.4, if you have to go back and add those additional salaries that are paid for the general fund, that's one general fund stuff.
Phyllis?
Yeah, I do have a question. So, it's 1.5 and 1.5.
Mhm.
But is that your whole department? I mean, that's all the insurance
No,
pays?
a lot of the departments in the general fund,
Already
based on the
in the general
request
fund
of the
being
insurance committee.
subsidized.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
just
you already
need to
have
know.
subsidies beyond the 70% in the budget that's already there.
It's not a true salary
Plus the
projection.
Your auditing
1.4.
clerks are coming out of general fund?
The rest of the
Auditing clerks are
department,
coming-
yes, ma'am.
They're coming out of general
Your
fund
fund,
or
yes, ma'am.
85? Okay. That's why you're gonna have them listed.
Yeah, thanks.
Because-
Right, yes, ma'am.
So the general fund is picking all that up in
Right.
addition to the 70%. So we're already subsidizing more than showing on the budget.
Okay.
From a perspective of transparency, you know, if somebody comes from the general fund side who doesn't have insurance, then you want to know, why does the general fund cover more than that? I want more money from my salary or my classroom or something like that. So, you know, you have the other side of the coin. I have to balance both points.
Well, and I understand, if they're coming out of general fund, they shouldn't be on this sheet at all,
Right.
because it doesn't affect.
And they
you.
aren't. You have 8 employees total, right? Trish?
Out of total of 8, including myself, yes. 7 employees.
And I think that
Three are only being
went a
paid for
long way
at
to a lot of the compliments the last time with the services that have been provided, that the reconciliations that need to happen, the things that we have caught, and the things we have saved, and that we have properly staffed the department where you don't have a lot of the issues that we
So-
have, and we've added some
So
technology.
over 62.5% of the employees are paid, their salary totals are coming from the general fund.
Right, and some school systems pay all of it out of the general fund.
And some it's the reverse, they all are coming out of the insurance. I think it just, each district depends on its own, but right now it would be over 63% with the reclass portion coming out of the general fund.
Yeah, technically, we should probably transfer that money from the general fund. If you want to have pure transparency,
Right.
you would transfer those funds to the Fund 85 and then show everybody in Fund 85. If you truly wanted to know from the perspective of how much does it cost, would be, then you could really see the true general fund subsidy of Fund 85.
Back to Carol's point, when you look at the audit and
Can
you
you come back to Carol too, Nancy?
yeah,
Because 4%, listen, I spoke to some people today. It's not realistic for them. That means they're gonna have to do without medication. So can we look at something other than the 4%? I'm just being honest. And listen, I'm not talking about Carol Broussard. I'm still talking about that little old lady who doesn't even make $1,000 a month, y'all. Okay? So can we look at maybe something other than that 4%?
So can I give an example? If you're trying to look at the employee or retiree only under Medicare, it would be an increase of $4 is what it would end up being under the 4%.
This little old
Right,
lady
but we're
doesn't have
rounding up
Medicare.
is what we're doing
She
on all the
doesn't have
totals.
Medicare, no Medicare.
Yeah, I do like
So
that.
for that one, it's
Premium has
$6
taken
if you're
$0.06
looking
off.
at the basic employee only rate.
It's a lot.
Miss,
$4.
what if, just asking, that's under the Blue Cross Blue Shield, on the Humana side, there's no cost increase on the 4% for the Humana side?
Exactly, and if it was in retiree only, well, they'd have to have Medicare A and B, then it would be a 0 premium.
You know, I can live with a 2% because we haven't had an increase in 3 years, and I understand that. But beyond that, I think for some of our lower paid retirees, I'm one of the ones not on Medicare. I mean, I just had to pay out of pocket for a knee surgery right off the bat before they even did the surgery, my $5,500 went. That's a lot. Is there any way we could work with a 2% increase and find the means elsewhere, whether approach the board or whether it be you have more people going on Humana, won't that reduce your premiums that you
We did
pay?
put those projections in
You
there.
did
I
put
work
that
with
in
Hub
there.
on those. Yes, ma'am.
I'll keep those.
And we've had, what, two relative
We've had a
sessions
large
on Humana.
transition
Yeah.
already.
Well, I knew you had. I mean, the
Yeah.
response has been good
That's
according
all
to the
factored
retired teachers.
It's already factored
Yeah.
in.
But, is there any way we can work with a 2% increase from, I mean, I don't know how anybody
Yeah,
else
End up with
feels.
a
They
deficit.
can end up with a
Plus the
deficit.
cost saving. Don't forget, you have the 2 cost savings on the side as well. So you're going from $950 to $1,200 for your deductible.
No, I don't think we.
No, that's only with
Have
the
that as well?
3%, Ms. Carroll.
I don't
That
think-
wouldn't be till next January.
But
Right.
that's still, y'all, I mean,
If we would have to do it next January, I think that's what we were
I
saying.
would
that-
hope we would not.
That we wouldn't have
it's
to.
gonna happen.
we're
Because-
talking about a deficit next June 30th, right?
Yeah, right. This-
We're looking at the well, Hub's projections on this one
It's going to next June 30th, right?
is noting a 2.4 as of 6/30/2023. And then I'm forecasting for my budget, to which you've seen, for the following year, and I'm still We had to work with HUB strategically to try and work with those numbers, and even the 3%, if you look at the 3% premium increase budget sheet, you've only got 26,000 based on those totals, and those were the 2 cost savings measures plus the 3%.
Can we do, is it possible to do 2% now and see where we are in January? Because we're talking the next June 30th.
That's this year.
But keep in mind, you've got, right around the corner, you've got July 1st. We don't want to increase deductibles till January 1st, for
Correct.
sure. Because some members may have met their deductible already.
Exactly. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I think a 4%.
And then some.
If you see, I mean, you've seen the inflation numbers. The fact that we can keep this to 4% is an accomplishment. I mean, we've seen healthcare inflation at 15%. Regular inflation, I think today posted at 6%, which is a reduction from the previous year of 8%. That we've kept this 0, 0, and 4
but it's going
over 3
down.
years.
I saw that same program, and
It went from 8 to 6.
yeah, and they're predicting, the trend now is to go lower, I mean, to continue lower, maybe not as in big increments, but they're predicting that the inflation.
But see if it comes down to 4, we're just break even at that point.
But keep in mind, last year, with this year's
If we were
budget,
to continue the type of claims we had from July through January, we wouldn't be talking about this.
No.
I'm just still not,
I firmly believe the claims are gonna go down because you're talking about supply and demand and you know, stay at home, healthcare industry opening back up, folks not getting screened and going through all of that. And I do believe we're on the third base of that and starting to see, you know, weekly runs calming down and that type of thing. And therapy, chemotherapy and surgeries and all of that taking place and completing themselves. But you know, if we were to carry on with the type of claims that we had in the last 3-4 months of 22, we did not have but 1 month under $3 million on the medical side in the last 4 or 5 of 22, whereas we didn't have the 1 month over $3 million in the first half. So it was a really drastic. So all of that, you know, calming of claims is factored in into these numbers. That we revisioned and looked at every possible thing. Now, as far as the benefit changes in January, my optimistic hope would be that the saving strategies, the additional funding and the calming of claims could preclude us from having to interact those benefit changes. Because when we talk about a payroll deduction, you know, and looking at $3.30 rounded up to 4 or $2.30 rounded up to 3, we're talking $1 difference of a month, and that's on a gross basis, not on the pre-tax basis. To a family, the difference between 1% on a family is about $5 on a gross basis, about $4. That's a lot easier for an elderly person to cash flow than an additional $200 of deductible and things like that. So just, you know, trying to point those considerations out. We could or could not have to interact those benefit alternatives in January 1st. But, you know, I'm just going to tell you, going from a 4 to a 2 is not super impactful from an expense standpoint. It sounds like double, but it's not.
Shannon?
What about if we went, okay, like, let's just say for the 6 months, we go with a 2% with a 1% coming at the beginning of next year. So that would give us a, pardon? And we would still be in that deficit. If things continue, yeah, if your projections are correct.
If we had some kind of great luck and had $300,000 weeks, we could probably pull that off, but I would fire me if if I gave you that kind of report.
Shannon?
I would just like a little clarification, because I still need some help understanding how we got here from the last few reports being so positive.
So
Is it the claims, is it inflation, is it both of them?
Both of them, mostly claims,
Mostly claims.
okay? We got hit with some unexpected, premature babies, unexpected heart, unexpected, cancer. I mean, we all expected some increase in that. But to go from, a figure of, 546 to 787, nobody expected that.
Okay, so it was really kind of something that we couldn't have seen coming.
Right, because if you think about, we're a group health plan, right? So while we might be sitting around the table and we're great, that doesn't mean you get in the car and you're going the way home and then you get in a terrible accident and you end up with a $500,000 bill. Because we weren't anticipating that we were gonna get that bill from you in the hospital for 500, or those babies were gonna be born those months early. And that's
That's what I just wanted to make sure that I was
Yeah,
understanding that. I was like,
trying to get.
Exactly, I was like, is it the inflation, should we have seen it coming or not? No, of course, but that's all, because I was
I
just
mean, I think the
very,
inflation piece is a part of it.
well, sure.
And when you have these outstanding claims, is we don't know that it's gonna be you, me, or anybody else that's on our plan.
Right.
When those things happen, and it's like a trifecta, and it happened.
That's what I just wanted
And
to,
the cost of your
No,
class
yeah.
group is usually very predictable, and it has been for a long time, with the exception of recent years, because it's all uncharted territory with a pandemic like that, because once again, stay at home, parking opened up, and so once the market opened up, we suspected to see that utilization come. Then we saw it starting to calm down a little bit, but that's when it kind of reared its ugly head again, and we were starting to see $500,000 weeks, and then all of a sudden it comes. When you get $1 million a week or $1.2 million, okay, that immediately adds to the deficit of about $400,000 to $500,000, because you're counting on average weeks of 550, 600. And here comes double that. You gotta have a bunch of good weeks to make up for that.
Well, what we would need to do is, we're gonna have to have a good marketing program to let our people know that we need to do this. And I agree, I mean, I can see where it's happening simply because of the cost.
And you also need to tell them exactly what's the maximum it's gonna cost.
Exactly.
If you say $5, $6, they'll say, okay. But
These
if
are
you
the
go-
charts. Yeah, so they would know what plan you want and what
But
your
I don't
cost
know,
would
I mean, you're gonna have, this would be probably not almost impossible, but then if we could get it down to a one-on-one basis where your costs are gonna be $5 more a month, okay? Now, someone receiving that is gonna go, oh, well, okay, I can handle it, okay? And if it's for a family, $15 is really not that bad, you know?
I don't think that would be problematic,
it
Mr. Bush, because you're gonna know, everybody knows what plan they're in, and it's not gonna be a bunch of different specific numbers. Well, y'all got a lot of codes. You gotta think about that. But, you know, in most of it, you're either single, employee plus one, an employer with two or more.
Right.
You're either basic, enhanced, or high deductible health plan. So there could be a generic communication that says you're in the basic plan, your increase is $6.38.
I think that would work, okay? I mean, there's some gonna be more and some gonna be less, depending on where they fall in line with this. But we need to get this out to the people so that they can better understand, and I think they will, because, I mean, they see the cost of eggs, they see the cost of chicken, et cetera, et cetera. They know costs are going up. And we just got, you know, kind of caught in a sense that we've had these extremely expensive claims coming in. And I think if we explain that to them, what else can they say?
Carol's got a cost of medication is gonna go up.
Oh, God.
Everything. So don't say, when you say $6, but this year I'm paying medication maybe 12, and it might be 18 next
Yeah.
year. And then my question I have is, a question was asked to me, how many retirees do we have that are not on Medicare? I didn't remember that number, Trish.
I
What's
have
the
to
number?
pull the
Because
data, I don't know right off.
This
They're
little lady
coding for it based on Blue Cross.
Okay, but she said, a lot of my friends have died. So I don't want to be morbid, but we've had a lot of deaths because when we go to our meetings, there's a lot of people not there. So all those high-cost claimants, many of them have died. I don't want to be morbid. So then that affects your plan because now you can take those numbers off. So that was the question she asked me. How many? And then the next thing she told me when she asked that question, she said, the board promised me, now she's been retired, let's say 30-some years. The board promised me, because I couldn't put into Medicare, I couldn't pay that. They and maybe somebody knows better than me, I'm just repeating what she said. They promised they would take care of me. But all I see is money being taken from my insurance and my prescriptions to now I can barely function. Because she doesn't get increases. There's no cost of living increase every year. She has that amount. She just got a cost of living, and it was all taken because then you have inflation. So now when I'm going to explain this to her, her question is how many, she says the board will be happy when we're all gone because then we won't have
There are
those
not
high
many of
costs.
us left.
That's what she asked,
It's
and I
under
couldn't tell her.
100, it'd be cheaper
I
for them
couldn't.
to pay our Medicare premiums.
Yeah.
And that way, Blue Cross would be secondary.
See,
but
for
that's
me,
not
I have Medicare, so I'm not in that boat. But you, and I'm fighting for those people in that boat. And Katie, you said you in that boat.
Well, yeah, I
It
have
affects
knee
them.
replacements.
But they did have the opportunity, if I'm saying that
Oh, no,
correctly.
Oh, we
We
did
did
not.
not,
Oh,
we never
no.
could, it was
Oh, no.
denied. Don't bring that up, Trish, we were
The
denied.
government provided for an opportunity.
Yes,
And we-
that was denied.
I sought a legal opinion, and I'm still, I don't want to go there. Anyway, there was a period of time in which the board could allow those of us that were not on it to pay. We requested that we be allowed to pay in. All it took was a vote of those people on, and if Carol wanted it, then she would get it. But for years, this board refused to let it happen.
So they didn't.
So I could have been paying in, I could have Medicare, but we were denied by the Lafayette Parish School Board system. They said, don't worry about it, we're gonna take care of it. And that's exactly what they said, you don't need Medicare. So, no, now, I started paying in, but I retired before I finished. The board finally said, okay, and you get back paid for 2 years.
And you were here, yeah.
And I was here, and I
We
put
finally-
in.
We finally had him do it, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't get in enough quarters.
Yeah.
But no, to say that we had the opportunity, no, we were denied by this board the opportunity to contribute to Medicare for a period of time. Enough so that I could have had enough quarters, and many of the others that were in there could have had enough quarters. So, don't go there, because that's a sore spot with me.
But then, Kate, I'm gonna say, my mother was a cafeteria manager. She paid into Medicare. So she had Social Security.
Sure.
But she was in a separate entity. But this little old lady,
Yeah,
she was a retired teacher, so
Yeah.
she couldn't put it to Medicare.
Right.
So keep in mind, she does still have health insurance. I know that doesn't,
Oh,
But
absolutely.
it's costly for them.
it is,
But
but
Shannon, for
a
your,
very
to
good
answer your
plan.
question, this from the report last month, which is why I think there's more confusion or dissatisfaction with the recommendation than usual. But the total paid claims per employee per month increased 1.9% from 863 versus 847. That's the report from January 22 to December of 22. So that was last year. It was given to us February 9th of 2023.
Okay.
So the total paid claims per employee per month increased 1.9%.
1.9.
Yes, from 863 versus 847.
Correct, and that is on the plan year, okay? So, that goes right in hand with what I was saying, we had a fantastic first half of 22. Last portion of 22 was terrible, went from, it almost doubled.
But the beginning of 23, you indicated was more positive.
The beginning of 23, so I'll give you an example. July was $4.9 million of net claims. August, 4.9. September dropped to 2.2. October was back to 4.9. November was 6. December was 4.9, and then January is back down to 3.5, and then February looks pretty good. And it should, because you're renewing all of your deductibles and all of that type of thing.
Exactly.
But we're also seeing some calming of the claims.
I guess what I was surprised is that for all, we've had some really good years with really bad medical inflation. And it was almost like we were just lucky. Is it just coming home to roost? I mean, are the things she was talking about preventing that full brunt of inflation hitting our program? Because we really haven't increased, although inflation in the medical is exorbitant. But yet we were still hobbling along with good news, good news, good news until we didn't have good news anymore. I think maybe just come to roost. I mean, our luck ran out.
I think it was the lack during the pandemic of
people going to the doctor,
being able to go get regular visits. And next thing you know, you've got some increased cancer and circulatory on your hands, and that's been most of what it's about. But the cost of treating cancer and heart today versus as little as 3 years ago is big increase. You know? Inflation-wise, to be able to say in this period of time that we haven't had anything and to be able to do something as little as 4%, I know that y'all probably want to come choke me when I say this, but it's knocking it out the park, folks. It really is. Because, I mean, even if you look at the OGB and so many other big groups, they've had stomach much bigger increases, much more often, cutting benefits, all of those kind of things. And we've been able to preclude that for quite some time, especially with all of the savings that we've got on the pharmacy side, and more, and we'll continue to do these savings. But when you look at the benchmarking, you see how you stack up to OGB and then some of these larger self-funded plans around, your benefits are very good. Your payroll deductions are very competitive. You know, we just had a situation, and you're no different from the others. They've all had this kind of increase. Yours, in Ascension's a little sharper than the others, but that's the statistics of it. I don't think it's something that's coming to roost. I just think it's a product of a period of time when folks couldn't practice as much preventative care.
It's hard to hear.
But for competitive advantage, if we're competing against teachers that are in the systems that are in OGB, we're better.
Well, I mean, when you look at the benchmarking here on page, if you go to page 6, you see how you compare to the OGB. Obviously better than that by a long shot, especially in the benefits arena. And then on the next page, you've got Barebone, LaFouche, Ascension, St. Tammany, all big self-funded plans. I mean, you compare at least as good or better with most of these. So, I mean, it's not that you do not have a competitive plan to attract and retain talent, nor would any of the recommended increases in premium or anything like that pull you out of that competitive spot.
What are the wishes of the committee? We are required by board policy to come up with the recommendations to the board. So we need someone to make a motion in a second, and we can discuss that as well, but that has to happen.
So let me ask this question, perhaps I didn't understand, but if we go with a 3% increase, then we also same time need to do a benefit alternative of increasing? Is that what I understood you to say? Whereas a 4% increase, we wouldn't be touching the benefit alternative of increasing the deductible? Is that correct?
No, ma'am, I'm showing you both as alternatives here to lower the needed increase. Obviously, would be recommended that you would do the patient assistance immediately. The benefit alternatives would be much better suited for January 1st effective date, because January 1st is several months away from us. We still have time to monitor to see if our claims did subside enough that we wouldn't have to do it. Okay?
So I'm asking the question because, you know, and I'm just gonna look at a single line item. Employer retiree, you know, that first line or whatever on, like the basic. So 3% is $438, 4% is $638. So a difference of $2 a month, right?
Correct.
So if there's no deductible increase at this time, then we're simply talking about the premium increase, which 4% on the employee or retiree, whichever, is $638 a month.
You're talking 4% plus the RX benefits cost savings measure. That's what the 4% budget has tied together. Both of them have the prescription.
Yeah.
When we spoke with HUD, they recommended the prescription cost savings for sure. The 3% has the premium, has the deductible cost savings measure included in it. The 4% does not.
Okay, well, that was my question, but he said no, that was not correct. But you were shaking your head yes.
Mhm.
So I was looking at a yes and I was hearing a no.
But it's gonna come in January regardless.
Well, no, it doesn't have to come in January. Let's say the 4% doesn't mean that it has to come in January. With the 3%, it would need to come in January.
I guess what I really would like to do is like a bottom line, how much are we talking about a monthly increase? For the little old ladies and for the active employees who are supporting a family.
So I think that the 4%, if you look at, this is my opinion.
Yes.
Y'all just stop me, but my opinion. The 4%, if you do the 4%, then you're looking at the fact that you're doing the prescription savings, which we know is definitely needed for anyone. It benefits anyone who's getting over a 9,000 because you're taking away the 150 deductible or 10% that they would need. So it benefits them on that side. It benefits our plan. The 4% on our side, we know it's expected. You build it into your budget, you're done. You're not looking at and not having to do that January thing with this prediction, not having to do increasing the deductible.
So, possibly.
Right.
Right.
Possibly.
Right. The
The
projection.
3%, you have to do that
3%
side.
you're gonna need to do it.
In January. So
In
if we go with
January.
3%, then by January, we're having to increase the deductible amounts for the two higher paid.
Right.
I mean, if claims go
Higher
down,
benefit
you know,
plans.
if our claims go down, we may not have to, correct?
Listen, I will tell you that once October hits, it's deductible season.
Well,
And so a lot of
right.
people are having,
They all gonna go do it.
they're all doing
Yeah,
it
they're
because
not
their
gonna
deductible is met,
It's
it's
not gonna
very
go
close.
low.
I am guilty of that.
Everybody,
You know, oh, well, how close am I to my deductible? How many months left in the year? Well, let's get her done.
And so Mia, and so Ms. Lemay are on the other side with the 4%. So let's say the claims do go down, is the
Yes.
prediction. Then we've rebuilt our monies
Yeah.
back to where we don't have to come back and say, okay, so do we do a 3% now, then we come back in next spring and we say we need another 1%? So can we rebuild our fund on that side?
Yeah.
Because we put this into plan. We're hoping the prescriptions is a conservative number that he's given us.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband had surgery yesterday. Can I imagine paying $200 more for the deductible than I had to pay yesterday, and it's just March? So that 200 hits harder than the spread out. It
Yeah.
comes out the same amount, but like Glenn was saying, when you're putting it out all at once, spreading out, of course, is easier.
Right.
So I think that was the mind. Does that answer it a little bit better?
Yeah, it does. I just, like I said, I just was wanting to know bottom dollar, what's the increase? Because $6 a month for a single person, although, you know, if somebody on a fixed income, I can understand that it's super difficult. But I also know that, okay, I'm just gonna speak frankly, like, you can go buy a 6-pack of beer, ain't gonna pay more than $6. You know, or you can go buy, oh, I'm gonna treat myself to that bag of chips and that bag of candy, and then it's gonna be more than $6, or whatever. So $6 you can cut, you know, to me, easier than $300 or whatever.
Coming up with all it.
Coming out
That's
with all at
the
once.
point point I was trying to make. I think a 3% with a definite benefit change in January, I would take 4% with the probability of not having a change in January,
Yeah.
well over the 3% with a definite.
Correct. And
Once you've got the ability to handle cash flow wise, much easier than come January 1st, I know I've got some procedures, you know, or even if I'm going through my testing and all of that kind of thing, not wellness, those kind of things, you know, you got this money coming out of your pocket, $200 is a lot more than $6 a month.
It's just very difficult then to hear an audit report last month that the general fund had $40 million excess revenue over expenses. That was last month at an audit report. And then to hear this month that the general fund is in dire straits.
But you know, in this particular case, I think, and I think I heard, it may have been you that said that we're only 1 month away from a deficit. Okay, I mean, we could have claims coming in that would just create, you're good, but then you're not. And I think that's where we're at right now. We were looking good, and the things should start coming in, plus the inflation, you know, the inflation and everything else. We probably, I would think we just need to sock it, let's get it done, and not have an increase, you know, an increase now, then an increase in January, or an increase now, like at 3%, and then do something with the benefits, because that's going to be crazy. And like you said,
It's more bad news.
oh, it's more bad news. I mean, if we do that now, that people are going to look at that and say, and they're going to cut our benefits, and I just got an increase. That just for some people will not jive. You know, I can understand that.
What's the time frame that people would be notified? Like, will this be
We do it
voted
well
on?
in advance. Of course, in all honesty, you mentioned earlier that the governor could have an increase in pay. It's
Yeah.
gonna be around that same timing.
Yeah.
it would go to the, it has to go to the board, the board would have to vote.
It has not been approved yet.
Right, none of that is, but the
Right.
timing, not ideal timing, but yes, July 1st would have to be the change date.
So could this be
Revenues have
board
gone
meeting,
up for the
and
state
they would have a couple months
taxation,
advance?
because everything is costing more, just as
Yes.
revenues here have
But there is
increased.
a large contingent of the state legislature who are not fans
That's
of
correct.
public education.
That's
Like, they
correct.
wish we didn't exist.
And the more it goes, the more we have, yeah, you're right.
But it is the one thing that has been the consistent that we haven't gone up on in our lives, if you think about it, like between gas and cars and the insurance. I think someone said house insurance and just everything. It's the one thing that hasn't impacted any of us sitting at the table yet, and it's just here it is.
So that increase, proposed increase is $2,000, $167 a month, and this would be a $6. So, you know, people say, my insurance went up, I got a raise, my insurance went up, you know, $6 to $167. You know, it doesn't equate, even though sometimes it feels that way. We didn't do it last year because they had gotten a raise. I think that's part of the reason we'd be looking at a 2 or 3% this year. If we would have done a 1%, 1%, but we didn't. So
but
now
Matt,
it's kind
you
of
know,
accumulated.
Seriously, we need to stop this train from rolling the way it's rolling. Because if it continues rolling, a lot of people just won't be able to afford it. So I'm saying for the record, put it in the minutes, whatever we decide to do, I'm totally against. I'll be honest with you, I'm against it. But we need to start looking at the future. Don't tell me January, because I'm gonna write down in my notes, January they said, we may not have to increase deductibles, but I can see it happening. And if it does happen, January, we need to put something in place so it doesn't slap us in the face again. And I take what you tell me now, I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I'm tired of being the cheerleader and now I have to go back with a sad face and tell them your insurance is going to increase. So I'm taking it now with a grain of salt.
So so the 4% hopefully will not increase the deductible and the things in January.
That's what
So,
they're
well,
saying.
everything is gonna be
Amended, that's correct.
everything will be amended.
That's correct.
So what's needed for tonight is a motion for 4%?
Yeah.
And the acceptance of the savings strategy.
Yeah.
Right. And the savings strategy.
Prescriptions.
Prescription.
Before we do that, I do have a question, and it's a little off subject, but it pertains to the budget. I know in the audit there was some debate, and you talked about it at the last meeting. It was the day after surgery, and I was watching on TV, so you know, what I heard may not be what I heard. But in contention was that COVID refund of 1.4.
Correct.
Has that been settled?
Yes.
And it
In our
remained in our, okay, good,
In our favor.
okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
That was a
it's all-
battle. It was a battle.
I could tell it wasn't, you know,
Look,
from what I've
You
heard.
get
from the
upset
audit.
about your family.
What's that?
I got on the phone with the state, they threw us under, don't get me started.
Well, yeah,
threw
they
us
just
under
told
the
you it was
bus,
okay.
And we prevailed.
And this year's, which you have projected, has been approved too?
Yes.
300 and whatever,
So,
okay.
that's what has helped carry us also
That
without
million,
the
yeah.
percentages, is because we were able to, the COVID money
The
that
COVID money.
the board voted to put over, yes. So that has helped carry
And
us.
obviously, we were one of the few who did that because they were perplexed at the question. And I had to explain the whole thing about what a self-funded insurance program is.
Keep in mind too, it was 1.2 million of COVID ESSERs, and then we had 450,000 from the RX benefits too. So you're looking at 1.6 that you don't have this year, which is another effect on this year's upcoming budget. Those are one-time monies that you don't have this year.
And we're still saving $3 million a year with Silver Scripts?
Yeah, that came back as the audit, as one of our best cost savings. That came back from the auditors, that was one of the best things we've done.
Cool. I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, thank you.
That's
Wait,
okay.
okay, go ahead.
No, what is there?
I wanted to see, are there any members from the public here who would like to speak? Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to have the 4% increase effective July 1st, along with the patient assistance prescription drug program.
I second that.
John made the motion, Mia and Donna both seconded the motion.
Ty, she can have it, I don't need it.
Your points are down.
Yeah, your name is down.
Very cute.
Is there any discussion, any more discussion?
Can I say something?
Sure.
Your concerns, I think, are extremely valid. I'm not in your position or in your friend's position. I do think we need to have another discussion later this year about possibly either 1% alternating years or something to offset this. Because I mean, you know, for me, it's.
$72, that's a big
Yeah.
chunk of money.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you're not getting anything else. in,
Correct.
you know?
yeah. So I just wanted to say that. I think you're.
From maintenance part of it, we
I
haven't had
don't
a
think you
raise
can
in
reach
4
this
years.
level,
Yeah.
John, don't worry.
We just got a nice little raise, and them boys back there finally got ham on their bread,
Yeah.
okay? And, yeah, I gotta go to them and tell them, yeah, we got 4%, but in the long run, extra $200 more deductible, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you
It's
better
a
off
hard
with,
year.
You're better off with the $6 more.
Yeah.
$6 a month.
You know,
instead of-
as for instance, like me going back to those boys and telling them that, they ain't gonna be happy.
Yeah.
Every time they get a little raise, they say, oh, no worry, insurance will take it.
And I do wanna,
Yeah.
I know Trish's department has been doing an excellent job in Humana, and I know some people are still leery. The good thing about trying Humana is that you can't go back to Blue Cross Blue Shield too. So if that, and I know not everybody's eligible for it, but it is an option.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say like John and Kevin, I mean, you know, I'm one of the, I know whenever we hear, before I sat on this committee, the minute I would hear, we got $300 extra this year, yes. What? $450 has to go to insurance? What? So like there was a disconnect, and I've said some not so nice words sometimes whenever I would get both ends of that, right? Just because I'm transparent and honest, and sometimes I say way too much truthfulness. And so I will just say that I was, you know, that's one, and I still feel that way. But the problem, I think, is, and I'm not happy like everybody else that we look good, and now we don't, and there's a problem. But we have to fix the problem and move forward, and we can debate it all night long. But at the end of the day, if we don't do what we need to do to you know, move forward and fix this problem that we have, and you know, then, you know, we'll be looking at more problems down the road, so.
But I still think we need to get this thing done where we tell them what's
Yes.
gonna happen.
Yes.
And
Yes.
explain why.
Yes.
There's not, you know, if something happens and it's explained and it makes sense, I mean, and let's face it, costs are going up, we
Mhm.
know that. So
Everything.
but it's gonna have to be a marketing situation on y'all's part. I mean, and it's gonna have to be to the people that's it's gonna be effective.
You know, the $1 million check comment is, I mean, that makes sense to me. You know, that's what really what made me kind of understand that's a lot. It's self-funded, but that, you know, the difference between what you said from the first half of the year to the second half of the year, I mean, we need to communicate that to our members.
Yeah, I mean, if you just sell the program like it is, and tell it like it is. And the first half of the year, things looking great. The second half of the year, things fell through. We doubled the expenses and whatnot, and it's the people who are out there that are on the program. So I can understand that. And with the medical, and they know medical cost is going up, because when you go to the doctor, it's not $15 anymore. Okay, you know, it's way up there. And so y'all are gonna have to just put your heads
We
together.
alluded to it earlier, but the important thing is how much the maximum it could cost anybody for the 4%. Because immediately, 4%, how much will that cost me?
Yeah, and
that's-
but I think what they need to do is the two ends, okay? The minimum and the maximum.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because in that way, if you're in this, then you know it's gonna be in between that, and if you're wherever you're at.
Because if you tell me $6, I say, oh, okay.
Okay, but then if it's $20, then you're gonna get a tip. So,
Or if I don't know at all, I'll be.
even more.
Right.
Right, yeah. I think if you give them that range, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
it, that deduction was also.
That's true.
It's 3074, that's what I'm gonna pay more.
That me too.
So it's anywhere from 70 cents
So do we
to
vote,
30.
or what do we do?
Yes.
Yes, if there's no,
Depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and you have to know where you're at.
But the thing is, I think if you told them that, it would be.
We need to vote.
is there any more discussion?
No,
Call for the question.
call.
No, because then we have to vote on calling questions.
I withdraw my call.
Thank you. All those in favor of the 4% increase, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okey-dokey. It will be a 4%, this is what will go to the board, is the 4% increase with the patient assistance prescription drug program savings projected at $513,695. That's your motion, correct, John?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, next item on the agenda is the staff report.
The staff report, Ms. Nancy?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're up.
What's that?
I have the Fund 85 review. Do you need to ask any questions with regard to the budget, or are we good based on your previous questions?
Yeah, if you can make those corrections in that box that has
Okay.
the wrong numbers.
That's it, that doesn't go to the board, it's the detailed, so, but I will certainly make the correction. With regard to the staff report, just wanted to report on the LPSS Humana informational event that we had on March 2nd. We had 83 participants who attended, and as of today, we had 15 members who have already transitioned over from Blue Cross to Humana.
From that meeting?
From that meeting, yes. The previous meeting, we've had about that same number transition over after the informational event. So that's great. A lot of members are connecting with the rep that was here that gave the presentation. We are having them do triple checks before we transition them from one to the other. Let's look at your doctors, let's look at your pharmacy, and what prescriptions that you currently have. Let's answer those questions before we make any type of transition. But the Humana event went very well, so we were very excited. The other notification is the voluntary benefits RFP. It will start to be advertised as of March 15th through March 30th. The deadline for the proposal submission is April 12th. So just making a notification that the RFP for voluntary benefits is going to be posted tomorrow.
Do you have a copy of that RFP? Because that's a huge expense for the fund.
Huge expense for the
third
fund?
party administrator is what I'm thinking of.
No, No, ma'am. The only voluntary benefit expense that is a cost to the district is the basic life insurance that's paid for retiree and active members, but all the others are paid by
But
the employees
third-party
directly.
administrator,
That's Blue Cross.
We don't pay EBI at all. We don't pay
So
them
the
any
third
type of
party-
money.
the
No, ma'am.
third-party administrator of the school system is not paid.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No. So those are my only
Paid by
two.
the general fund.
Right. There's only one benefit under voluntary benefits, which is the district paid life insurance.
Can you email me a copy of that RFP? If it's
When it
digital-
posts, yes, ma'am, I can send you the link. And those are my only two.
Anything else for
I have a
Trish?
question.
Carol?
I was at an event yesterday and a retired teacher who was working Carencro Heights. I think she quit effective whatever day it was. Maybe it was that day she spoke to me. Because in the past, she worked and she was able to keep her Medicare benefits as her primary and Blue Cross Blue Shield as her secondary. But now things have changed, and I'm just gonna tell you how she explained it to me. Now she was told that she would have to go back to Blue Cross Blue Shield being her primary because she was working, and Medicare being her secondary. So then I checked with some other people last night who work in surrounding parishes, and they still have Medicare as their primary, blue, and whatever their secondary insurance is. We all don't have Blue Cross Blue Shield. So why is it that Lafayette Parish is doing that where surrounding parishes are not? Because that's not the first person that told me that, but she pulled me yesterday at this event, and she shared the same thing, and I went, oh my God, I have to ask.
I can't speak on other parishes, I can speak on LPSS. It's coordination of benefits directly from Medicare. So here would be my biggest pause with that. Yes, when the retiree comes back to work and they work for the district at LPSS, Blue Cross runs primary, Medicare runs secondary. They cannot receive the discounted premium because that's the purpose of the discounted premium. Medicare pays first, so therefore we reduce that premium amount.
But that just started, because she's been retired and she's been a sub.
We've been working with coordination of benefits with Medicare to ensure, because what ends up happening is CMS can come back years down the road, 2-3 years down the road, upwards and then some, and send us notification if claims were running incorrectly and the member was back to work, retiree returned to work, and they had Medicare. So that window is very far in reaching to where the district may have to pay those claims later on, and all the while they might have been receiving that discount. We've been completing multiple audits to make sure that we've got those retiree return to works running correctly. And yes, when they come back for LPSS specifically, if they have our group health insurance with Blue Cross, in particular is what I'm naming, then yes, Blue Cross pays first, Medicare pays second, so therefore that discount is
But
removed.
are you
But
gonna
they-
lose a lot of retirees who are subbing for you is my question?
Well, see, they have options, and we had a lot, even subs would fall under that category because they're returning in any type of capacity, working for the district. But they do have options. We had several members go to that Humana event. They got informed. They listened to their options. We've had, correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, we've had at least 5, perhaps, that were at that event, retiree return to works. And we had them specifically look into their doctors that they were seeing and their prescriptions. With those in particular, they did choose, a majority of them tried and is going to change over to Humana, and they're benefiting from it. Their copays are less under their prescriptions. They're getting other benefits. So they do have options, but yes, if they decide to still come and work for the district and have their Blue Cross, we do have to, their $950 deductible comes back into play because Blue Cross runs first. Their prescriptions change, they can't be on silver scripts anymore. They'd have to go back under the corporate plan. They'd have a premium change because they're no longer running first under Medicare, they're running first under Blue Cross.
That's controlled by Medicare.
Exactly, it's not by LPSS.
That's not up to LPSS.
It's not, it's managed by CMS, which is Medicare. That's why I said I would be worrisome for other districts not following those rules, especially if they're self-funded, because it could impact them heavily. That tells me perhaps somebody's not managing it.
Trish, our next meeting is scheduled,
April 25th.
if not before, if we need a special meeting, we'll do that. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
But I have a
So
question.
moved.
I have a
Wait,
question. Matt, on the 19, that's been on TV forever, the 19 audit finding, were any of the findings related to insurance?
No.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? All right, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Butch, is there a second? Carol, second. All those in favor?
You sure can.
It's not easy.